this every Friday afternoon, I want you to know, but we've got this for family weekend. So welcome, everybody. We're thrilled to have this room packed. This is very exciting. And I'm Susan King. I'm the Dean of the School of Journalism and Mass Communication here at UNC. And we started last January a series on women in leadership, women in media leadership. And it's been highly successful, and this is the first one of this semester, and we are thrilled to have Brooke Baldwin of CNN.
Hello.
With us. And I think it really sets off the tone, and so we decided that it would be great to do it on Parents and Family Weekend, because it would bring a whole kind of pizzazz to the weekend, and we were thrilled when the university said, can we invite all of our people there too? So we're streaming this live, and it will be up on YouTube afterwards, so we'll be there for people to share. I want to introduce you to a couple of people before we begin, because this is going to be a real conversation, and we're going to ask, have some time for you to also ask questions. But the first thing I want to do is we've got two of our Jaffa people. That is the Journalism Friends of the School, so they are alums. They are pretty high-priced door holders. They want to hand out your things. So where's John Frank and Sarah Lamb? I just want to say thank you over there for helping us. Sarah's moved from the New York City area back to Chapel Hill, and she is in our online master's program. And John is the legislative reporter for the News and Observer. And so if you want to know anything about what's going on in Raleigh, he'll tell you. So thank you. So we've got a terrific panel today, and everyone's going to have a hand in it. I just want to introduce everyone. I'm going to start with our parent, Bettie Sousa, whose daughter graduated last June. I want all you parents to know she has a job. She had an internship all summer in Washington, and then she was hired for a terrific new boutique PR company that's working on health. And Bettie started our Parents Council, and we have a number of our Parents Council members here as well. So she is a lawyer in the state, a very active lawyer, and been involved at the highest levels of the association and the bar. And so she brings the perspective of a parent, a mother, and a woman who has made it when nobody was saying yes to her. Nice. What's this guy doing? The first man on our program. So we were just showing that it takes men and women together to make the kind of changes. Charlie Tuggle, Dr. T, as we call him, was one of the people who he began our television program, and I want you to know we just won the Hearst Award for the best television operation in the country. Wow. Tom Linden and Jim Hepner are all in a hand in that, but he can tell us about Brooke when she was here as a student beach walker. And with us are our two student interviewers, both of whom are in the electronic and broadcasting track, and both were veterans of this leadership series. I'm going to introduce Rizk first, and she has spent her summer at MTV. And so she was in one of our programs last year. And Alexis Simmons is a junior. Oh, Alex is a senior. Alexis is a junior, and she spent the summer working at a TV station in Charleston. So we've got Brooke Baldwin's in the making here. Keeping this tradition alive. So I get to ask the first question, except I'm going to have Brooke just start with a little bit about coming back here and just sort of what you want to tell us about. It's such a leader and such a Tar Heel.
Hello, everyone. This is I'm seriously, I feel like I'm in the middle of a dream. I'm a little bit in a fog right now, and the fact that this room is full is nuts to me. So thank you so much for coming, and I was going to actually let you all in on a little secret, because this is truly this crazy full circle moment for me, and I recognize former CNN interns. I mean, it's great to see faces that I recognize in here, but the little secret is that, so I was going back, and I've been journaling privately since I was a senior in high school, and I went back to sort of reread where I was when I was in the J school, and the wildest thing happened, and I just wanted to share this with you. So my junior year, which is when you technically get into the J school, there was this CNN anchor who was coming to talk. Her name was Carol Lynn, and it was it was a senior only thing. And I was like, well, I'm going to go and sit in the back row. No one's going to see me. I'm going to sneak in and sneak out. And so I tucked this in my journal from 2000 with my little junior year scribble on the back of it, and I sat there like a big old nerd taking notes.
We want to save yours.
It was good luck for me, but that is why this is just wild sitting here. The roles are reversed, and I think looking back to my J school experience, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, I grew up seriously wanting to be an astronaut. Like, I went to space camp. I actually aced calculus my freshman year in college. I took physics. So I was like, well, English. English sounds like fun. And then ultimately I came into the J school. But did I want to produce? Did I?
No technology.
I got it. It's like, fine. No, roll on. So I did produce, anchor, report, I really didn't know. And it was a combination of Carolina Week, which I hope a lot of you are involved in, and it was also interning, and then I just love being around the clickety-clack of a newsroom so much that I spent my senior year driving to Durham, going to WTBD-TV, writing my first lead line that aired on the 11 o'clock news, so I was the girl like at top of the hill after all my friends were already out. I was like, I wrote that, But I will tell a story, so my senior year, Dr. T and I were close, and he showed me a lot, but one of the first packages, if not my first package, so...
It was the first one ever.
It was the first one ever. And a package for non-TV speak is sort of just like your first story, like a 2-minute, minute and a half piece, sound narration. And so my dad at the time, I'm from Atlanta, my dad was working in Atlanta, and he said, hey, I'm going to Germany for a long weekend for Oktoberfest that's going on. Do you want to come with me? And this is like pre-9/11. I was telling someone earlier, pre-9/11 in the sense that, we had this clunky, shady-looking equipment. So I said yes, and so I took my tripod and my camera and and I was a Spanish double major, but I didn't speak a lick of German. But I went with my dad, and I shot this whole piece, and he helped me, and we were in the beer garden. I didn't drink a lick of beer. I was like, I'm a journalist, and I'm putting a story together for Dr. T's class. And I come back, and I put the whole thing together, and I'm like, I reread about that recently as well, and I got a C. I got a C, and I had, I'm a Southern pride. I had a come to Jesus moment, teary a little bit in this journalism school where I thought, oh my gosh, is this for me? And I said yes. So thank you for that grade. Because in the end, it just gave me that much more fire in my belly, and that much more like, I'm gonna show this Dr. Tuggle, that I can make an A, and I did all right. So I think and I want to open this up because this is like about me, but it's really about you. It really is about you, and the 3 little bits of advice I think I would give, and knowing this is Parents Weekend, my first is to the moms and the dads, because. And there is no formula, there is no right or wrong way to succeed in this crazy business, but to the parents, support your kids. Support your kids. They're about to embark on this. They're going to move to some ville, Charlottesville, Bakersville. They're going to make like peanuts. My family came to me for Christmas. I mean, I still work holidays. So they made Christmas happen in Charlottesville and in Charleston and in Washington, D.C. I had countless Thanksgivings on a Tuesday. We made it happen. They sent my little brother to me when he was like at Vanderbilt, and I was working in West Virginia, and we got our 7-Eleven Christmas dinner. But he was there because I had to do the 6 o'clock news, and he sat next to me off camera. It happened. So whether it's financial or emotional support, don't make them go to law school if they don't want to. Don't make them do babies if they don't want to right away. Let them do their thing and support them. I think for the students, my advice would be twofold. One, learn how to do it all. And I think that's one of the great things about this J school. And I remember running on campus, and they make you shoot and edit and write. And I think I directed one day. I was horrible at that. But learning to do it all and knowing that it helps you along the way, and knowing that you're never. So my first job was in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I don't know if you have TV markets, like one is New York City, 200 is somewhere in Alaska, and I was like at 192. And I was hired as a reporter. I quickly got promoted to be the big weekend anchor, which means waking up at 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning and going to work. When my friends were, forgive me parents, drunk dialing me from New York City and DC, I'm like, I can't talk to you. I'm going to work at 2 a.m. and I'm going to be the one-woman newsroom until I produce and put my show on the air. So you're not above that, and you're going to do it all. And then my third piece of advice really is just to be humble. Be humble. I could still be a morning anchor in West Virginia, and I don't know if I would be here. You know, it's like I keep saying, this is a pinch me moment, but carry the tripod, learn from your photographers, learn from your editors. Success in this business is this odd combination of a little bit of magic, a little bit of talent, it's who you know, and timing. And it's all of that coming together at the same time on this trajectory, hopefully like this. But all along, be humble and be inquisitive. And this is not about me, so.
Well, it's a little bit about it. Also, if any of you do follow Brooke on Twitter, last Saturday I was at a family wedding and I was checking Twitter and she was like, next week I'm going to be on Charlie Tuggle. And I'm so excited, so I wrote back, we're so excited too. You know, see the doctor. So tweet now. It's #Baldwin.
I have my own hashtag.
So for those who aren't here, she can tweet. So you've kind of given us a feel through your journal of what it was like. We wanted you to get into the mood of thinking back to when you were here and when you were willing to take the risks and really go big, because you can fail. And you talked about that a little bit, but rather than just think of what it was like, we thought we would take you back there.
Oh, Lord.
Roll tape!
Journalism and mass communication at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. This is Carolina Week.
So long. It's like, where are we
Good evening, and thanks for joining us for the January 24th edition of Carolina Week. I'm Bridget Williams.
And I'm Brooke Baldwin. We're proud to be bringing you coverage of Carolina news and events.
I think it's better now.
Wow, thank you.
Less beer. But you were willing to take a risk. You really, because she's already told me her first job couldn't pay the rent.
Right.
What gave you the drive and the kind of desire and the willingness to take that risk to go for the big time, which you're now in?
I've had a bunch of people ask me that recently. Like, I don't know. I think drive can be taught, but it's also just inherent in you. So I think I went to a pretty rigorous high school in Atlanta that instilled in me this sense of go, go, go. I think my parents, were always really supportive and had that. And I think, I don't know. I think when I sat there listening to Carol Lynn 12 years ago in a room just like this, when she spoke, it was just like, and I feel so blessed to be in this career where it just clicked. Like everything she was talking about no day is the same, these crazy hours, but, it's just this amazing career, and it just gelled and it felt right. And so it didn't matter that I would have to move to who knows where or, live in West Virginia, no offense, in my 20s for 3 years, and going to Chili's was a good time on a Friday night. I love my Chili's, but I mean, so you just... I think it was just part of me. I just knew with my whole heart that this is what I wanted to do, to really do it and stick with it.
Betty, you get the first question.
I do, and actually I'm going to take two. Dean King told me to begin with that I would be the first, and she said, toss her a softball. And so I went to Franklin Street today, and here you go. And if you smack the little dots, pretty hard, try another one. I did eventually. This one.
Nice.
So here's your softball question. Do you still have your AP style book?
Yes. On my bookshelf.
I figured. I saw the journal. It was.
Yeah.
I knew the answer. The second one's a little bit harder. Can you tell a difference in people in the industry, in your industry, who have a journalism background versus, let's say, drama. I mean, it appears that a lot of people are hired that are not journalists.
Well, I think there are personalities and there are journalists. And I think that there is a place because the numbers are there, the ratings are there, and sometimes, especially at night, especially maybe on some networks, that people really want that big opinion and personality. I think during the day, people get the straight news, and maybe at night, people like having that. But sure, I think also, too, I appreciate people who come through local news, working at CNN and knowing people who really know how to like put their nose to the grindstone and hustle, and I can tell the difference in those people as well.
And it counts.
And it counts.
Hustle counts.
Hustle counts.
Alex, you get the next question.
Could you also tell us a little bit about women in this industry nowadays and what competition are we facing? Is this still subconsciously male territory?
You know, it's funny because this is, sorry, I hear the hum. It's funny because I had never really stopped to think like, oh, I'm a female journalist. Let me like stop and think about that for a minute. Like, I'm just a journalist and I'm a woman. And I think that I would be naive to say that like it's all roses and we don't have to worry about that. But I was saying before when I was interviewed elsewhere that I think it's all about women helping women. You know what I'm saying? Like, sadly, I think sometimes it's hard to find, maybe for me, if I want to find a mentor, like truly someone I can go to who's a female, who's an anchor, who's maybe a little bit older, sometimes it's not always that easy because we're like this. Who's coming up behind me, you know? It's the truth. It is a wickedly competitive business for guys and gals, and be prepared for that. You're going to have those people in the newsroom that are like, what's she doing? Because I want to be doing that and better. Like, that is understood. That's how this is. This is like this crazy, you know, tournament profession, right? Where it's like this, and this. But women helping women is like the biggest, most awesome thing, I think, if you take anything away.
Stick together.
Stick together, girls. Yes.
Okay, boy.
Hey, man.
The students in the crowd, probably many have never heard of Paul Harvey. Those of us who are a little older know that Paul Harvey was famous for saying, and now you know the rest of the story. I'm going to tell the rest of the story.
Okay.
I learned from you, I hope you learned from me, but I also learned from you. In my early days of teaching, I think I was maybe a little too harsh in terms of my criticisms. Because I would say, you need to do this and this and this and this to get better, without saying, and you did this right here pretty well. So, my bad on that. I was also, it was hard to tell sometimes when I was kidding. And especially if that's mixed in with all that criticism. On her paper, on her script that she turned in to me, I had all these corrections, all these notes. And I also had a little notation that said, how many beers had you had when you did that stand-up?
That's true.
And I didn't, now when I do stuff like that, I put a little smiley face. But I didn't do that. And she made it sound like she was out in the hall and she was sobbing. She was a total basket case. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what have I done now? And you know, with all girls, I have 3 girls, and now I have one granddaughter and another granddaughter on the way. I'm totally outnumbered. And you would think that I would know better. But that taught me that I needed to be a little nicer in terms of my criticism. I still want you to do excellent work.
Yeah.
But I can be a little nicer about how I say it. So, all that being said, what's the number one thing you think you got from this school of journalism? And corollary to that is, what's the one thing we didn't teach that you wish we had?
Ooh. Let's think about that for a minute. I think, I don't know how you would maybe teach this, but let's say like the farther along you get working a beat and having sources, really knowing how to cultivate and having a Rolodex, I think somehow that / I never did a live shot before being on TV, and I think you guys do that now. So I missed that memo.
so I learned doing it live. And
The hard way,
I
probably.
learned doing it the hard way.
which is the best way I think to learn, just to throw you in there. And then I think the biggest takeaway was knowing.
I think it was like my little like J school posse. You know, I was involved in all this other stuff off campus, but I really felt like there was this quirky, crazy, you know, Carolina Week group that really gives you this sense of this confidence, and having that network. I mean, to this day, there are people I don't know, but we'll tweet each other about Carolina Week or about UNC, and that, I mean, I'm here. Like, I didn't hesitate in coming back because that community exists today, and that's super, I think, special and unique also to this journalism school.
This niche, crazy profession that if you so choose, if you choose wisely, you know, this is what you end up with. And I think just having that, you know, and still having friends from the J school, and they know you from then, means a lot.
Community. It's a community.
Yeah, it is.
It's a bonding. Alexis, what do you want?
Yes, Dr. Tuggle, touched on the criticisms, and I just want to know, how do you bounce back from these criticisms, or when you're up against the wall? Like, what do you do to bounce back from those things?
A criticism like, can you be more specific?
Yes, like just for instance, how he had his comments on the paper, and as in maybe someone saying you can't do this. What do you like? What do you
I
do?
say yes, I can. I'm going to show you how. Yeah. I mean, I think that. Go ahead.
No, well, I was going to say, he probably did you a disservice by being that tough, because the business is that tough, right?
Business is that tough. Yeah.
Right. You got to prove yourself every day, and there's other people trying to get your spot. So
It is
you
that
have
tough
to
every
be able
day.
to take people who don't think you're good enough.
Yeah.
So we did her a service, not a disservice.
A service. Yeah, I thought you said yes.
Yes,
Service. Yes. It's just a tough gig. Yeah.
We hear all this stuff about ratings, sorry to bump in, but follow up to that. I mean, do you get some grief if the ratings aren't what people think they should be?
I don't personally get grief. It's a funny thing where I really never get, I rarely sometimes get feedback. You hear when you mess up, but you don't often hear when you're doing a nice job. So like silence is sort of golden. But I think when it comes to ratings, I definitely know when I'm doing well. And I definitely, my executive producer, who's my work husband, he's losing hair just because he lives, eats, and breathes the numbers. And that really is the bottom line and how we make money and how I'm paid, so the ratings matter.
It's a race.
And it's very competitive. So I don't personally get grief every day, but it is like, I know exactly at
4:05 when that email comes out. Whether they're ever done and how we do compared to other networks.
So how are you doing?
my little 2 hours are all right.
And as I told Brooke, we have CNN all the time in our front lobby. And
It's a good kind of bias.
I keep wanting to get a little thing down there. CNN is on because between
Baldwin, glass of.
I love it when you all tweet me when I'm on. It's such a trip.
I want to follow up, Alex, I want you to follow up too, and a little because when you talk about the woman kind of thing, do you bring women along?
Yes.
How?
We recently hired a gal, Pamela Brown.
Who was a Carolina girl who is doing awesome. She's based in New York. She was in DC, and I had met her when I worked in DC once upon a time, but she's someone who I know is a Tar Heel, who we covered. I was in Boston for 3 weeks for the bombing. I was in Moore, Oklahoma for a week covering that awful, fatal tornado not too long ago. So we bonded. I mean, we literally sat there in between live shots, like telling stories of UNCJ school. So we met from your internship over the summer, and I hope I helped you in the teeniest way possible.
Absolutely, more than the teeniest way.
Yeah.
And taking you back to the J school, I think you also studied Spanish.
Mhm.
How has that helped you being a bilingual correspondent in this industry?
Well, I wish my Spanish was as good as it was when I was on this campus 12 years ago, but it definitely, I've done interviews in Spanish, so that helps. Obviously, that helps. I did a documentary from this ancient Mayan civilization in Guatemala for CNN International, then CNN Espanol had me come over. God bless them. I did it really slowly in many takes, but I did the whole thing in Spanish. So it's just a nice little added flair.
Skill.
Did you take a voice class when you were here?
I didn't. I don't even know. Were they offered?
No, her first boss.
Was Dave Cupp.
So
who
Dave
we
Cupp
then
hired
hired to teach voice here at the J School.
Yeah.
Alexis and I are now in Professor Cupp's voice
Professor Cup.
He was I remember why I stayed here for an extra month, like finishing up my double major before getting my first job in Charlottesville, and Dave Cupp, Spender's Dave Cupp, was the guy who I remember. He was actually, I got really lucky. My first job, I just sent out one tape and I got one job, and that was Dave Cupp hiring me. But I remember driving to Charlottesville, like in my suit, thinking he was going to see me because I was going to the UNCG school, you know. And they're like, "Yeah, come back next week or whatever." So I got the phone call, I got the job. But he was my boss, and he's here now.
But he helped you with your voice at all while you're working for him?
I'm sure he did. I mean, I remember Steve Daniels helped me with my voice. He's an anchor at WTVD here, and I remember he sat me down and helped me, you know, slow down, enunciate. So, yeah. It's a process.
So there's a difference between being in college and in the actual professional world. I want to know, what piece of advice what piece of advice have you gotten as a professional journalist that you feel is, you know, the best piece of advice that you've gotten?
Piece of advice is listen. Listen and let silence breathe. You know what I mean by that? Like, if you're interviewing someone, I think initially it is a rookie mistake to speak through the silence because you get your best stuff when you stop and then the person keeps going. And that's when they tell you what they're really thinking, or that's when they really start boo-hoo-hooing or whatever it is. Let the silence breathe.
And since this is about leadership, I wanted you to talk a little bit about your sense of being a leader, because at this point, you know, you're a starter. Now you're in the networks, and you're a leader of women. So we already know you're like reaching back, bringing up. But what sort of is your sense of what your role is as leader? I mean, you got to make sure that you don't have any negative things on there, you know, because you're a role model to a lot of people. But what has that sense of being a leader in the industry? What
Does it feel like, or what?
what's your philosophy? What is your sense of what?
Philosophy of leadership.
Or why are you attracted to it?
To being a leader?
Yeah.
I think that is something that, for whatever reason, I've always emerged as a leader growing up. I think from when I was itty bitty to being, I was a president of my senior class in high school, to now I consider myself a co-pilot of an editorial team of 15 people who have me work on my show. So I think, going back to listening, I think every person plays a role. Like, I don't sit down in my editorial meeting every morning at 8:15 and say, this is what's in the news today. You know, you do this, you do this, you do this. I think it is a community, it is a team thing. And for whatever, like, ultimately, I think gains you some respect. So I would say that, and be humble.
And you've seen different types of leadership going. So what?
And where women, there's a study that came out this week about women in leadership. I've got all the statistics there. But there's still in the Fortune 500, maybe 20 women who are CEOs. There's like 17% of directors of America's companies are women. You know, you're on TV.
I'm the dean. You know, we're there.
But all right.
Still not there
Yeah.
in the same numbers.
You're a lawyer, big-time lawyer in North Carolina. but you're a player. So where are we on this women's leadership piece? Where you've got Sheryl Sandberg saying, lean in. You know, where are we as in our time, 2013, with women's leadership?
Well, when I started practicing law in 1981, I can remember going to a courthouse, and I was going for a trial, and I had a really big suitcase before they had rolling suitcases, this big square one with all the materials, and then I had a box on my hip. And as I was walking up the 20 stairs of one of these old courthouses, the deputy opened the door and said, "Can I help you?" I said, "Sure, here's my suitcase or my box." I gave him one of them. And he went in, and I was in a suit, all dressed up. And then talked to the other attorney, calendar call, judge comes in, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, "Where's my suit?" I remember it's the suitcase. I was like, "Where is the briefcase?" And I looked at the deputy, and he said, "It's up here on the bench. I thought you were the court reporter." And so there was a lot of that different, and it's now, and when I hear you say, "I'm just a woman and I happen to be a journalist," I feel the same way. So I think things are a lot different, a lot better. But on the other hand, I mean, there is still in the upper management of law firms, and you listen to somebody talk about a judge, inevitably they will say he. And I teach an adjunct class, and I correct my students and my husband and my son every single time. They say, "What did he do?" So she, But
I think in TV, it's a visual medium, right? So especially if, I've gone to makeup and gone through the glam squad thing and I'm going on an interview, and sometimes, every so often, you'll get the person who automatically judges you before even meeting you based upon like how you look, right? And there is I almost feel the need to do like extra homework to prove to you that I may look one way, but like, let's go. Sit down. Let's do this interview because I am armed with information and I am intelligent, and you know what I'm saying? There is that too. I think that other men maybe don't have to deal with.
So you have to be twice as prepared.
I definitely do extra homework.
Let me interject here.
Yeah.
The thing that makes me most proud about you is that you have a BS meter.
And I've seen it go off.
On both sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
And I very much appreciate that it goes off on both sides of the aisle. We're not going to go there. I've
Right.
heard you say that a few times.
Right.
Why did you say that? And
To the person she's interviewing.
yeah, we're not going to go there because someone is blaming, I don't know.
It's a talking point. If they have a talking point.
Yeah, they have a talking point, and they want to make the talking point that she knows better than to let them get away with that. Did you learn that here, or did you begin?
I did not learn about it in interviews. That's something else. Put that on the list.
Yeah.
I mean, like do politics and think of some way you could have I don't mean to be, and I'm not a yeller. I don't like yelling on TV. Some people really like that, but I think that it's very easy to have a combative interview, and sometimes I think it just goes back to listening. And it's a funny thing when you're in the middle of something on live TV and you're really having to listen to what the other person's saying, and you've got all this, you've done your homeworks, this is over here, and you've got your information, but you're also like listening to see if this person continues to repeat the same line over and over and over, but you don't want to be rude, you don't want to keep interrupting because you'll hear it on Twitter if you keep interrupting. So it's like this constant thing, and at the end of the day, you just want to be fair. So you know when to shut up and listen, and then when to push back. It's a delicate dance.
Sidetrack. Do you think that it's hard to be objective when you have anything that relates to politics in that sense? Or just even on a regular story, taking a step back and saying there's one side to this story and there's another side to this story, and bringing the two together, not necessarily always politics.
I think for the most part, I've always felt like my mother was like, "Why aren't you a judge?" I've always felt fairly fair. I don't care. There are always two sides of the story. There just are. And it's your job to find those two sides. Sometimes you're always on the side of right. When it comes to certain social issues, there is right and wrong. And then there are the stories that are just, it's not political, but you just can't help it being like, I was in Oklahoma walking through this house with this man who lost everything. And he was like talking about how he wished he'd given up his house to the home across the street. They lost everything, a newborn, and he starts boo-hoo-hooing, and I start boo-hoo-hooing, so very rarely does that happen, where that's not necessarily like a bias, but can't not feel for you.
But I always get the impression when I watch you on the air,
That what you're trying to do is you've got some story out there, and you're trying to get a group of people that are going to make the audience know more about it.
Yes.
I don't feel like you've got, I don't know where your biases are. I mean, I'm sure you have some passions, but I just get the sense that you're trying to
It's the biggest compliment
get it on
ever.
the stage.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
what
you, yeah. Thank you.
Score.
Do you have a specific goal or vision beyond what you're doing right now?
And how much you're willing to share with
Yeah.
us.
Hello, YouTube. Hello, seated bosses. I think, at a point, it's a funny thing where you get to this point where, I have my own show on CNN. I have 2 hours of the 24-hour cable news network, and I'm 34, so I've done all right. And I don't know. I don't know yet. I'm feeling it out. I've been at CNN for 5.5 years-ish, so I would be open to moving. But at this point, you get to be a little picky, which is sort of fun.
But you want to play it out. You want to go as far as you can.
I do. I don't know what that looks like yet. Stay tuned.
So I want to ask something though in the women thing again, because
Yeah.
sometimes I was in television too, right?
Yes.
And, I was
Honored to be next to you.
No,
you're
but I
kissing me
sometimes say we need more women to be producers.
Yes,
We need women to go into
yes.
management because the networks are all run by men.
Yeah. I got my own show 3 or so years ago at CNN, and my first executive producer was a woman, and she taught me so much, and it's just, she had a different touch, and she has gone on to do amazing things, and, I have a dear friend, I talk about how, like, women supporting women, who do I look to? There's a woman who was the breadwinner of her family, and her husband is a stay-at-home dad, and she is kick and tail in our documentary unit. I mean, everything you see on this documentary at CNN has her hand all over it. So I agree. Like, there needs to be more in every facet of, executives. Every facet, not just being on TV.
Do you get to pick your guest?
Yes.
And how much in advance typically would you
Well,
do that?
the day of. So we just go by whatever the news is of the day. So if it's, I get up, I read. We sit around this big old table. We toss out stories. It's very open. And then we have ideas for certain guests we would like. Certain reach guests, certain people who are friends of the show. And then if breaking news happens in the middle of the show, then they just start saying, this person's coming on, and on the fly, you just come up with what you're doing.
Wow.
But you are part of the editorial team.
Because I got to visit her on at CNN, and it's not like, okay, she shows up, 5 minutes, here's her script. All day, you're
That would be
helping
very
script.
easy, wouldn't it? Yeah, no. that's
I've
not
seen
how it
people
works.
do that.
I feel like the viewer's smart. Like, they know and you're just reading, right? You know. You don't want to watch that.
But that's more fun when you're part of the editorial process
Yes.
and coming up with a story.
But I think that it all goes back to being here. And when you learn to do all these different things, whatever it is that you want to ultimately do, it's like you develop this empathy and this understanding for the other jobs, right? So that when you come along and you pick your one thing that you do, but you want to understand how the producer works or how the writer is or the editor or the photographer. And so it's a group thing, and that was definitely instilled here. We're one from the J School.
I definitely have to agree with that, because
Yeah.
I was just about to ask you how important you really think it is to bring in every aspect. Learn a little bit about editing, learn a little bit about reporting, learn how to produce. But in order to produce, you're going to have to know all of those things. So
I produced my first 2 jobs. I was an anchor in Charlottesville, then I moved up to Charleston, West Virginia, and I produced our noon show and anchored it. I produced our weekend shows in Charlottesville and anchored them. I line produced from the anchor desk and rolled my teleprompter with my foot. I did.
But then you're skilled from every.
Yeah, you are.
was there anything that you learned here that helped you be able to do that and be in an environment where you have to know a little bit about everything in order to get what you need to get done?
I think that that's not necessarily something you learn in a classroom. I think that you just develop this ability to be agile, and you learn as you go. Like, I really feel like this career is the front row seat to history. So you learn. If you don't have this knowledge of something, you read and then you live through it, and then you also have people on your editorial team who really lived through it from 30 years ago. So it's all those little things.
So one word that hasn't come up here is balance. And women are always talking about the balance thing. You're probably working every waking hour, right? Almost. although her wonderful boyfriend's here.
Yes, yes. Hi, Kevin.
But how are you thinking about that balancing, and having free time? You probably don't get Christmas off if it's a Tuesday? Maybe you do at this
I've
point.
asked for it this year.
Okay. So, you got to get it in your contract.
Yeah.
That's your contract. But how are you thinking of balancing? Or are you just not thinking about it?
You're only 34.
Yeah. So I think I always knew that my career was my priority for like a little while. So that meant living in towns,
Dating people, but then you move.
and sometimes they move with you and then you move on, and it happens. And I know lots of people it happens with, and I hope now, and I think really finally being in Atlanta, being in a city where I'm able to or even before, I would always make sure that I was visiting friends. That was my balance. My friends, my family. I hope to maybe have a family one day, but that's still not even my priority yet. That's something that I'm aware of back here. I don't know if I answered your question.
You
I'm
did.
still figuring it out a little bit.
But you have a sense of who you are.
I think so. Yeah.
That's easy to say, but that's really hard to do. And that's what college is all about, right?
Yeah.
Get to know yourself.
Totally.
The best, and some stuff you don't like as much, but that's really hard. Don't you think? Okay, we're going to let you guys ask some questions too, and we're going to keep it flowing. So right back there, one of our TV guys in Brandon, stand up and introduce
Stand up, tell us what year you are and where you're from.
Jeremy Spearman. I graduated from DJ School in 2011. I'm a producer at WSOC in Charlotte, North Carolina. My question for you is, I work with anchors who don't weigh in on a lot of things, but for you at CNN, what has been your biggest ethical dilemma, and how did you fix it?
Good question. What's your ethical dilemma?
Biggest ethical dilemma. I think with everything that's been going on with Syria, it's not necessarily, it's it's a network decision, right? So when the chemical weapons stuff happened with August 21st and we got the video, we had to wait for the UN report, we were getting all this stuff from the administration, and there's video of bodies and morgues and kids that are dead.
And this is above my pay grade, but we all weigh in, is what we show and how much we show and the warning we give to the viewer. And so, in that case, I can still see them in my head that we aired on CNN, and it's a big powwow because we don't want to, there's again, this fine line between how much, but it's part of the story.
Right? The bodies, the kids.
Whether or not there would be a strike versus now who knows what with Putin. So I hope that answered your question, but that's something that's tough to decide.
Hi, I'm Jessica Connor. I'm a first year here at Carolina, going into the J school, hopefully.
How could you consider anything else?
She's in the course we're teaching this semester for the first time. It's 300 students. And it's called Media Revolution, from Gutenberg to Zuckerberg. And we are showing the best of the school, all the different majors. And she's one of the most active students.
Thank you.
And your question.
My question actually pertains to your course. I am in that lecture, and we talk about how technology and social media has shaped broadcast journalism, any other type of journalism today. And I see you with your smartphone and your hashtag. How has Twitter, Facebook, and technology morphed since you started in the business?
Okay, so good question. I was thinking about this earlier. So when I was working in Charlottesville under Dave
Just
Cupp.
sit down so that you
Yes. We had our little newsroom, and we had, each of us had our little cubicles, and I had my old school, computer monitor, which was like this DOS-esque computer, newsroom software.
For anyone under 30, you don't know what that is.
It was very antiquated black and white,
Anyway, but we had this one computer that we would all have to share to check email. Okay?
So now I have and I'm sure we have 2 phones. We have, you're constantly connected, which is a blessing and a curse.
And I think in terms of news gathering,
That's how we get a lot of news from
Twitter. We do. Or we hope
hope to generate a lot of news for you to be reading on Twitter. You know, our CNN Mobile is crazy popular.
But it also means you're working 24/7. It doesn't.
Well, we may not be working 24/7. We're accessible, you know, constantly, which is fun and not fun, but it's what you sign up for.
My name is Mary Stevens. I'm a senior here. I actually interned at CNN this summer with CNN.com original videos.
Awesome.
I have a question. I'll be graduating soon, and you mentioned earlier that you have. Please, no. You mentioned earlier you have great respect for people who start in local news and work their way up. So, is it your advice to look for jobs in local news to get experience, or should I shoot?
So, what do you want to do? Do you
I really enjoyed working with the original video team, and I'm doing photojournalism, so
Okay.
like documentary type short videos or still photography.
It's different. So for on air, go small. I think for you, maybe you could start at a place like CNN and work your way, because you may not have to do those live shots and do it live for the first time when 5 people are watching. So you may be able to start at a much bigger place. At the same time, working in Charlottesville, I'd always meet the Daily Progress people who are the newspaper people who you just get your hands on more when you start small. I know it's not always fun because it's not the big city and your friends don't live there. But even if you do it for just a little bit, I think then for your next job, you've done so much more, so you can like hopscotch those people who started maybe on the lower rungs at a bigger place.
I always think, it's really important to make your mistakes in some places a bit smaller. If you're on CNN making a mistake, they don't forget it.
Yeah, you're telling me.
It's not bad to have some
So.
experiences. Right there.
My name is Sasha, and I'm a freshman at Chapel Hill. And I was just wondering, who are your personal journalistic role models, and what journalists would you recommend that students really observe and learn from?
Other than you.
Let's see. Meeting Diane Sawyer at the White House Correspondents' Dinner a couple of years ago was pretty cool. I think that she rocks. I wish I knew her personally better. I saw her and I was like, tall girl. I threw my arm around her. We got a picture. But I think she really embodies just the all-round journalist woman, been there, done that. Sitting next to this one, I think is pretty incredible. Just what she's done in her career. And now morphed. Honestly, looking at the pictures on your walls in your office, it's pretty incredible. So I love that you've had this career, and now you guys are lucky. I think Christiane Amanpour. I talk to her on TV all the time. I run into her. She is the real deal. She has been there, done that. She is who you could shoot a quick email to about, hey, let's talk about this new Iranian president. Yeah, it's just, she's amazing. On that same vein, there's a gal named Arwa Damon, she's a senior international correspondent for us. She's based, I believe, in Beirut now, and she has been in the thick of some really, really awful wars. And she is young. She's a young woman. There's an amazing Vogue article on her. Google it, Arwa Damon, Vogue. Came out not too long ago, and she is just, talk about like a real war correspondent who has been there, done that, and worked her way up and had some serious drive to hear her story. Those would be a couple of mine.
I know you've got another one there.
I do. I just want to know, what motivates you? What keeps you going? Is there a book that you've read? Is there a speaker that you've heard?
Or anything like that?
Neither. It's not a book. It's not a speaker. It's that I think I really, truly drink the journalism Kool-Aid. I really do think that this is the coolest job ever, and every day is new. So I'm always motivated by, well, what's tomorrow going to bring, and who am I going to get to talk to about this, and what can I help change, and who can I meet, and who's going to make me a better person, who I get to interview.
But when you said before, first draft of history, I mean, you did say
Yeah.
that you're like watching it. You know,
Yeah.
you're a part of it. That to me is what all these students share. They somehow want to be part of what's happening in the public square. You know,
In that
what's going-
moment.
in the moment, in their time, shaping the events of their time, and being players in it. And some people are so cynical. They say, "Oh, they're yelling at each other in Washington." Well, they were yelling during Lincoln's time too. But what is it about being part of your time, your society, your generation, and really being an active player in shaping that turns you on? Because it clearly does.
Why would I not want to be part of that? Why would I not? There are a lot of the things that we cover. Some of the things are wonderful and exciting, like being part of the inauguration and being on the National Mall and, you know, seeing the president on the Capitol steps, or it's being in Boston for 3 weeks covering something so horrible and interviewing this firefighter that in his 41 years on the job never did an interview till me, and cried because he put the blanket over the little boy who died. So I want to know those people and be part of what is happening in the world.
But you also get to do Dolly Parton.
But I also get to do Dolly Parton
Things like that.
and Cyndi Lauper and Willie Nelson and all these other crazy cool people. So it's like,
How did Music Monday come about?
me selfishly loving music. So we did this segment, it's no longer, it's here, but we did this segment on my show for about a year and a half where I would just go out and spend my free time in the evenings. I really love music. I took an musicology course. I have this weird fascination with world music. So it was me, and I said, hey, let's go. You don't have to, you know, this isn't me. We just need to get these crews to go out and go see music and go bring music back to CNN. So we interviewed all kinds of different bands that ran the gamut and put them on my show once a week. So that was fun.
Back there.
Looking back,
Talk loud, project.
looking back on the beginning of your career, would you say that there are a few pivotal moments that sort of were turning points that you could say this is how I got where I got, this is why I got there? Could you share a few of those?
Those are great. I'm just going to repeat it for the streaming audience. What are some pivotal moments where you said, you know, this moved you forward?
Pivotal moments that moved me forward. Gosh. Let's see. I'm just thinking aloud as I'm sitting in front of you all. Being in Charlottesville.
I think I know one from previous conversations. When you were in West Virginia, you did the 3 or 4 hour long live.
Sago.
Yeah. No, the special.
Oh, the Bridge Day.
The Bridge Day, yeah.
We've talked about that before. The Bridge Day was just everything at once
Collapsed.
and for hours. And you had to go through it.
It's funny how, like, I may have progressed, but the problems all, like, the crazy things that can get thrown in your way are all the same. You just so happen to be in a few more people start watching. But, so I was in West Virginia for 3 years in my 20s, and this one big thing that they do every year over this beautiful part of the state is you base jump. So base jumping is, like, jumping off of a fixed object with one parachute, okay? And it's like totally illegal, but they do this in West Virginia, and it's legal for 1 day. And it's like crazy amazing pictures. So our West Virginia TV station was gonna broadcast this for like 4 hours live straight, 1 day. And they tapped me to co-anchor it with this other person. And so we get there, I mean, this is like mega, this is gonna go statewide, this was such a big deal for me at the time, like doing Bridge Day. And so we had like satellite trucks all over, and the whole thing was produced for 4 hours. And like, I have not thought about this in a while, but right before we go on live for the beginning of our 4 hours, I hear this little voice in my ear, like trying to be calm and saying like all of the feeds have been knocked out because I think one of the jumpers hit our satellite truck. So we were basically SOL. You just need to fill for 4 hours. That's what I got in my ear for 4 hours. And so, and by the way, it was like a monsoon. So that probably was why the guy like hit our satellite truck. So it was horrible weather. I think I got the flu afterwards, but it was one of those moments where we pulled it off somehow. Like finally they started getting the signals back up. We had our reporters who we could finally talk to. Who really wants to watch two, you know, sopping wet anchors sitting freezing on a bridge. But I think moments like that, I mean, definitely now at CNN, I hear in my ear all the time, like breaking news.
Stretch.
Gotta talk over these live pictures, and you get better and better at it. But I would say those kind of moments like that where you're thrown for a loop, maybe. That was a bit of a loop. Okay.
Hello. You came on.
Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Harrison. I'm a first year from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Thinking about business and journalism. You came on CNN at a really interesting time, like right before Facebook and Twitter became really popular. And I was wondering, do you remember the exact moment where that technology, using that technology, was brought to the table? And were you excited or scared of it? And what's that like, and CNN like that?
I think Facebook had been around for a little bit before I came on, but Twitter was a new thing. And so my predecessor, who was like this awesome, crazy uncle for me, Rick Sanchez, I took his hours. And he really, I feel like, was a pioneer of using Twitter on live TV. I mean, he's been written up amazingly over his use and the foresight. And now that female EP I was talking about who worked with him, she was incredible. So, I accepted it, and I'm all about it. I love tweeting. Yeah.
But this morning I heard on the radio that 15 years ago yesterday, a new company was born. Google. Only 15 years ago.
You know, like I said, it feels it's so much a part of our life that you realize it became integrated, and Twitter is now integrated into into your life in a way that's, completely inseparable. There was one back here, I want to make sure. Yeah, right in the back there. There's also one. Okay, so we'll get you, and then we'll get over here.
Hi, I'm Brian Fanning. I'm a senior from Damascus, Maryland. I'm more on the print side of things, so like something that I really wanted to know about is, if I'm covering a tragedy, I have an hour to sit down with someone and really understand what they're going through and represent it respectfully and evenly. If I was on TV, I have no idea how I would do that. So how do you balance getting the news but also being sensitive to people going through tragedy?
And add a layer to that, which is 5 other reporters banging down that same person's door, and you're all trying to be sensitive. And I remember a chapter in your book about taking no as an answer. So first of all, like, you have to be, it's a cutthroat deal, but sometimes no means no, and like, just stop pushing it. I really believe that there are some people who don't take no. I think that when you do get that, if you are lucky enough to get that interview with somebody who is grieving and in a difficult position, you talk to them like you would talk to a family member. In that sense, like, respect, don't push. You learn when to push a little bit. Depending on, you read their face, you learn when they are willing to share and what they're not willing to share. Before the camera, before the whatever starts rolling, make them feel comfortable. The biggest compliment I get is, I forgot a camera was rolling. I thought I was just talking to you. Great. Yeah.
And who was it over here? Oh, right there, I couldn't see it.
Hi, I'm Nicole Caprado. I'm a senior here in the J School on the broadcast track.
Hello.
And she's the editor of the DTH.
Whoa. Wow. No drive there.
So I have a question. When you came out of college and you were growing as a journalist,
Yeah.
where do you think your biggest weakness or area you needed to improve on was, and how did you do that?
I think, so it's a deadline world, right? So I think writing packages, writing stories, learning how to do it, like being a great storyteller, but also meeting a deadline. I think doing that over and over and over and over, to the point where I was working in DC covering crime nightly, crashing a piece, speeding along in a live truck to get there for the 10 o'clock news. You get in the rhythm. But it takes doing it over and over and over, whether you're writing a piece for newspaper or TV. I think it just takes practice. Just be patient.
Alex, you and Alexis are going to get the last 2 questions.
Okay, well, overall, I know, Seth. Actually, mine is a little bit of a fun one, but I noticed that you tweeted about your Carolina Blue iPhone
Yeah.
now that there's new iPhones out. And I'm curious as to your strongest Carolina route. What is the most amazing moment coming back to Carolina, being at Chapel Hill?
Okay, sitting right here.
I mean, seriously, I know you guys are all here, and I'm really sitting right here.
Rereading how I felt 12 years ago and seeing all of you.
I will never, this is a life highlight right now.
My question is, a lot of us are trying to enter this market of broadcast journalism, and we're just scared. We don't know what we're going to face. What would you say to someone who's just like, they know they want to do journalism, but they just don't know how to approach it?
Don't think too much and just dive in. Dive in and learn as you go.
Just dive in.
You've got the tools from this place, but the rest you figure out along the way. I'm still figuring it out.
And there's a lot.
You move a different route.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's one thing, I believe that journalism is a seminal learning experience. Every day you learn. And so if you go a different direction for some reason, some other time, have every fantastic moment. And every young woman out there, she's got those red shoes, those La Bouton. shoes, you know, I mean, that is a fun moment because she's successful enough to spend that much money on those.
Happy birthday to me.
Yeah, once in a while. So that's the other thing. And I'm sure your parents is thrilled you're buying them, so they're.
Yeah, they're off the hook. They've been on here a while.
We'll have a few minutes to talk to folks. I am thrilled we've had such a great group, and you've had such good questions.
Thank you all so
And then we've got young journalists in the wings here, ready to join CNN and learn from each other. For me, the most exciting thing I heard today, too, is that all of you agree that we women need to stick together. It's not a zero-sum game, because there's opportunities for women at every level. And to have friendships as well as success, that's it. Thanks for being with us. Thank you.